Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. Chapter 1. The Introduction. The streets of Elmwood had always been tranquil, their hushed whispers carrying stories woven into the fabric of a tight-knit community. Generations of families had grown and thrived here, their quiet lives peppered with reassuring familiarity. But beneath this serene facade lay a lurking undercurrent, a shadow that would ultimately shatter the calm. It was a late autumn evening when whispers began to turn into hushed panic. The day had been marked by the scent of damp leaves and a chill in the air that seeped through the peeling paint of age-old homes. From the quaint bookstore at the corner to the diner where laughter echoed late into the night, something felt amiss. Residents had started to notice the absence of young Emily Carter, a 17-year-old high school senior who was known for her bright smile and insatiable curiosity. Emily had left home that morning with her backpack slung over one shoulder, returning to a routine that included classes, soccer practice, and a job at the local cafe. But as twilight descended, her absence morphed from an innocent oversight into a deepening terror. By nightfall, her friends had scoured the neighborhood, calling her name against the backdrop of an encroaching dark. When dawn broke, concern turned into fear. The police were notified and an investigation unfolded against the autumn chill that clung to the air. The townsfolk, albeit apprehensive, held on to a fragile thread of hope, certain that Emily would be found, certain that this serene town of theirs was impenetrable to such grim reality. Chapter 2. The Victim. Emily Carter embodied the spirit of Elmwood. Her laughter was often the backdrop to the quiet hum of daily life, a comfort to those who knew her. An honor-roll student at Elmwood High, she planned to pursue a degree in environmental science, eager to make a mark on a world she loved. Friends would describe her as a thinker and a dreamer, often seen hunched over a well-thumbed book in the town's park or discussing new ideas about sustainability over coffee with her peers. But somewhere beyond the flattering descriptions and cherubic smiles lay a complexity that few understood. Amidst the backdrop of her seemingly idyllic life, Emily struggled with the pressures of adolescence. Like many teens, she grappled with self-identity and the weight of expectation. An insider to the close-knit group that often staked out the local diner, she was equally a target for the cruel liar. She was equally a target for the cruel. The pressure sometimes suffocated her, leaving her to retreat within herself, a quagmire of emotions and worries cloaked beneath her amiable exterior. In the days that followed her disappearance, friends gathered around the cafe where Emily often worked. With coffee cups in hand and the din of clinking dishes surrounding them, they shared memories and scraps of speculation. With every passing hour, their faces shifted from hope to confusion, to fear, their smiles now laden with a heaviness that was palpable. It became clear. Each cherished memory painted a picture of the girl they adored, while simultaneously raising more questions about her fate. The reality of the impending investigation began seeping into conversations, intertwining with memories and shining a light on missed warnings they wished they had seen. Chapter 3. The Crime Scene. When daylight returned to Elmwood, it brought with it a grim sense of urgency. Trained search teams, along with volunteers from the community, swarmed the local woodland area that bordered the town, a place where Emily had been known to take solitary walks. Shrouded by dense thickets and towering trees, the woods exhaled a foreboding silence that felt more imposing as the hours wore on. The air was heavy with moisture, giving an almost tangible quality to the unease that had spread throughout the investigative teams. As the hike unraveled, teams combed the trails marked by fallen leaves and stubborn remnants of fall foliage. Each footfall felt deliberate, each rustle of branches echoing an unspoken hope that they may find Emily alive, sun-kissed and smiling. But the search quickly took a somber turn when the flashlight beams pierced deeper into a secluded area. Tucked beneath a gnarled oak, partially concealed by a tangle of underbrush, lay Emily's backpack. Its unmistakable blue fabric drew gasps from onlookers' lives momentarily frozen as the reality of its presence set. For law enforcement, the significance was far more severe. Marking the site for forensic teams, they began to gather evidence carefully, maintaining a sense of professional detachment in the face of grief that threatened to engulf the searching volunteers. A sense of dread washed over them as they searched for a task that felt like looking for rain in the desert. Emphasis switched from hopes of recovery to a desperate call for examination. Every pocket of air filled with the heaviness of dread, hinting at an inevitable conclusion that the community couldn't yet comprehend. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, the fading light imbued a solemn wisdom to the woods, leaving everyone aware that they were in the presence of something tragic. The kind of revelation that would disrupt the eternal calm of Elmwood. Chapter 4. The early investigation. The days following the discovery of Emily's backpack stirred the deepest fears within the community. The town's tranquility had shattered, replaced by an urgent, unsettling tension that seeped into the very fabric of Elmwood. Hard conversation surrounding Emily's fate quickly became the focus for both law enforcement and her distraught family. Detective Claire Mitchell, a seasoned investigator renowned for her unyielding resolve, was assigned to lead the case. With a reputation for meticulous attention to detail, she understood the unique challenges that accompanied investigating a crime in a community where everyone knew one another. In interviews, her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the rising anxiety of Emily's family, whose faces were etched with hope and devastation intertwined. Detective Mitchell began by dissecting Emily's daily routines, combing through her digital devices and scrutinizing social media accounts for clues. Every message, every connection led to a deeper analysis of her relationships, friends, classmates, even acquaintances. Many of the interviews unveiled a treasure trove of information, albeit cloaked in the shadows of youthful bravado and secretive behaviors. Investigators meticulously canvassed the neighborhood, seeking those who had seen Emily on her last known day. The young and old alike seemed eager to share their insights, piecing together a sort of collective timeline that would have built love a patchwork of familiarity painted over with trails of unease. However, as the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that some essential fragments remained missing, lost in the threads of memory that were now tainted by fear. Community flyers began to blanket Elmwood, the familiar faces of neighbors turning into whispers of well-meaning but inadequate assistance. With each passing day, an ominous cloud loomed larger over the hope of finding Emily. The case became a haunting portrait of dread, the allure of fresh leads growing stagnant in the chill of autumn. Chapter 5. The Dead Ends. As the investigation progressed into its second week, The initial camaraderie among Elmwood residents began to give way to an unsettling hopelessness. Detective Claire Mitchell trudged through a cycle of leads that seemed to dwindle more with each day, turning once vibrant faces into expressions marred by exhaustion and anxiety. The relentless pursuit of answers had led her team deep into the town's haunts, the diner where Emily worked, the library where she spent her afternoons, even the soccer field where she played. Yet, the testimony that emerged was often riddled with ambiguity. Patrons recalled watching Emily interact with friends, exchanging laughter, but none could solidify a concrete timeline that led to her disappearance. Some of the adolescents involved in Emily's life became increasingly evasive, weaving tales of typical teenage drama as a smokescreen to protect their own secrets, further complicating the search for the truth. Cyber investigators meticulously combed through Emily's social media accounts, noting occasional flirtations and mild disputes, but failing to uncover any menacing patterns. Nothing and no one seemed to point to a discernible motive or suspect. When Detective Mitchell's team interviewed potential witnesses, they've learned of rumor stories whispered between teenagers about a mysterious figure loitering near the school in the days preceding Emily's disappearance. Yet, upon further investigation, this lead evaporated, leaving behind conjecture without substance. Tips flowed in, but almost all amounted to little more than wild speculation or idle gossip, draining resources that felt stretched thinner by the minute. The pursuit of leads slowly turned into the pursuit of silence. The pea-green leaves of early winter began to flicker in the wind, an ominous signal that the darkness enveloping Elmwood was only beginning. The community's heart, which had once thudded with certain enthusiasm, was now calmed by dread, encapsulating their fear that hope might never return. Chapter 6. A break in the case. Weeks had faded into an agonizing monotony of dead ends, yet Detective Claire Mitchell remained steadfast, guided by an unyielding determination. The haunting gaze of Emily's family sharpened her sense of urgency, each day intensifying the pressing need for closure. As vibrant autumn leaves surrendered to winter's chill, an unforeseen breakthrough disrupted the dismal stillness surrounding the case. It came on an otherwise ordinary afternoon, when an anonymous tip arrived at the station, a voice shaky but insistent. The caller claimed to have seen something unusual on the day Emily went missing. Located near the outskirts of town, the caller mentioned a dilapidated building known to locals as the Old Mill, a derelict structure long abandoned and often set as the backdrop for whispered tales of mischief. Though skeptical yet intrigued, Detective Mitchell felt the weight of her duty to follow up on every lead. Gathering her team, they headed to the Old Mill, its crumbling facade draped in ivy and the echoes of the past lingering in the cool air. The scattered remains of a bygone era greeted them. Rusted machinery lay tangled in weeds, offering an unsettling sense of isolation. As the investigators swept through the darkened interior, an eerie silence loomed. But their diligence bore fruit when one officer noticed faint footprints leading to a trapdoor, partially obscured by debris. Heartbeats quickened. Detectives carefully pried it open, revealing a set of wooden stairs that twisted into darkness. What they found beneath that humble layer of earth would ignite a flicker of hope among the weary detectives. A small collection of personal belongings, items they would later confirm belonged to Emily, buried under layers of dust, tangled in the debris of time, alongside a mysterious journal filled with ink-blotched pages that hinted at an emotional storm. Only Emily might have understood. As the chilling significance of the discovery sank in, alarm bells jerked into action within the department. This was the break they had been yearning for. The tide of despair began to shift. But with that glimmer of hope came the stark realization that the circumstances growing around Emily's fate were far more sinister than anyone had presumed. Chapter 7. The Suspect. The chilling discovery at the old mill transformed the investigation from a search for a missing girl into a pursuit of a potential perpetrator. As the sun set over Elmwood, cloaked in hues of dusk, Detective Claire Mitchell sifted through the implications of Emily's belongings and the fragmented journal of thoughts that hinted at a deeper conflict. She knew they had to pivot quickly. Each second felt like an eternity. The journal became a critical piece of the puzzle, revealing snippets of Emily's life that had not previously surfaced in amidst struggles. An unreciprocated crush, and the unsettling mention of a name, Mark Lawson. To the casual observer, Mark was a popular senior, known for his charming demeanor and effortless charisma. But beneath that facade lay a troubling history punctuated by rumor stories of jealousy, outbursts, and an alarming obsession with Emily that too many had dismissed as harmless infatuation. In the wake of the new evidence, police began to build a timeline of Mark's movements, speaking to classmates and friends who recalled odd encounters involving Emily. As words rolled in, a pattern emerged. Mark had been seen lingering near her classes more frequently in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Then, during a critical interview, a friend recalled a heated argument Mark had with Emily, a striking contrast to the polished image he displayed to outsiders. With this newfound insight, Detective Mitchell assembled an interview team, armed with a meticulous strategy and hidden reserves of apprehension. The prospect of confronting Mark provoked deep tension as they prepared to bring in the popular student for questioning. Viewed as an icon among his peers, approaching him felt like poking a hornet's nest. The repercussions could sway the fragile balance of the town's psyche. As Mark stepped into the interrogation room, he exuded an aura of confidence, casually fixing his gaze on the detectives. The air shifted with an electric tension, a silent acknowledgement of the pressures that now gripped Elmwood. Detective Mitchell detected an imperceptible crack in his demeanor when faced with the revelations of Emily's journal. Would he maintain his composure as they would peel back the layers of his carefully crafted facade? Chapter 8. The Trial. As the trial commenced, the atmosphere in the courtroom was heavier than the thick wooden beams that framed the gallery. The community of Elmwood, once a sanctuary of simplicity, now buzzed with pulsating energy and palpable tension. Friends and family crowded into the pews, their faces washed with concern and deep-seated resentment, directed at the man accused of tearing apart their lives, Mark Lawson. Detective Claire Mitchell sat among the spectators, not as an observer, but as a relentless reminder of the urgency and heartbreak that had led to this moment. Each day unfolded like a chilling narrative woven from fragmentary memories and stark realities. She observed how the prosecution painted a vivid portrait of Mark's obsession with Emilia fixation that had turned toxic. As testimony strung across the courtroom, Emily's jovial spirit emerged from the confines of her absence, a star that shone ever brighter. Witnesses spoke of the heated exchanges between the two, each recounting a new wrinkle that defined their relationship, from innocent crush to dark fixation. They recounted the way Mark had once crossed the line from admiration to obsession, the subtle shifts that foreshadowed a budding danger they wished they had recognized sooner. Yet, what hung most heavily in the air was a battle of narratives. Mark's defense team fought back with fervor, presenting an alternate reality of a misunderstood boy who had simply loved too fiercely and became the scapegoat for a community desperate for closure. Their arguments floated through the room, seducing some with doubt and forcing others to grapple with the unwelcome complexities of young love gone astray. As the weeks dragged on, each witness added their voice to the collective outcry for justice. Detective Mitchell dissected the evidence meticulously presented by the prosecution, a mosaic of interactions and insights leading to a single conclusion: that Mark had chosen to silence Emily for reasons that now seemed terrifyingly clear. The gavel sounded when the jury finally reached a verdict. Tension thudded through the courtroom as everyone awaited the answer that would echo through Elmwood for years to come. The result would mark not just the fate of one man, but the healing or the haunting of an entire community. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. The verdict echoed through the chambers, resonating like a thunderclap that fractured the uneasy stillness gripping Elmwood. As the jury pronounced Mark Lawson guilty of kidnapping and manslaughter, a wave of collective emotion washed over the room. Gasps of disbelief mingled with muted relief from Emily's family. Yet the joy of closure was tainted by an unresolved grief, lingering like the shadows of the past. In the weeks following the trial, the town settled into a somber routine. The vibrant laughter and camaraderie that once breathed life into Elmwood were replaced by hushed conversations, lingering stares, and an omnipresent sorrow. The once busy cafe closed for extended periods, and the local high school felt the crushing silence weigh heavily on its halls. Memories of Emily colored every corner, her absence a gaping wound that refused to heal. Detective Claire Mitchell found herself navigating the delicate aftermath of discovery and resolution. Standing in front of Emily's family, she could see the double-edged nature of their relief and sorrow. The struggle to move forward clashed with the linger of shattered dreams, the reminders of a life that could have been. Though they had sought justice, the emotional scars would remain forever marked. Support groups began to pop up, filling the void with dialogues around loss and community resilience. Town halls transformed into gatherings of shared memories, a ritual of remembrance that intertwined with healing. Each story recounted served as a tribute to Emily's spirit, as words spilled into the atmosphere, floating like her laughter, intertwining the hope of prevention with the pain of loss. Yet, with each memorial, shadows still loomed. The narrative surrounding Mark's actions hadn't just tarnished his reputation. It had painted the youth of Elmwood with a brush of mistrust and caution. Parents clutched their children tightly, fearful that the bonds of youth could conceal something dark, while friendships frayed in whispered suspicion. As winter settled deeper into the town, a layer of frost cloaked the trees and streets, a bittersweet reminder of the cycles of life. Elmwood, though scarred, remained determined to restore the spirit of its community, carrying Emily's memory and forging connections that honored her with hope for a brighter tomorrow. Chapter 10. Reflection. As the final remnants of winter melted into the promise of spring, Detective Claire Mitchell found herself drawn to the park where Emily had often spent her afternoons. The trees were beginning to blossom, a stark contrast to the heartache that lingered in the soil. With each step, the vibrant colors reminded her of the laughter and warmth that had once radiated through Elmwood, tainted by a somber reflection on the fragility of life. Sitting on a bench, watching children chase after kites, Claire couldn't help but ponder the series of events that had unfolded. She thought of Emily's family, still grappling with the emptiness of their loss, their lives forever punctuated by the absence of their spirited daughter. She realized that justice, while served, didn't erase the pain. Every celebration would forever contain an echo of what had been taken from them. The layers of the case peeled away, revealing not just a crime, but the intimate struggles of youth entwined with the vulnerability of relationships. The very essence of empathy emerged in Claire's heart, a call to not simply investigate, but to connect with the humanity that resides in each story of loss. As she picked a small wildflower that had boldly sprung through a crack in the sidewalk, a single thought settled into her mind. Healing isn't linear. That continue to shine, even in absence.